last night or 7:30. And
Yes, there is a reason.
so we didn't have a lot of chance, but I think it was interesting because quite frankly, I thought, after reading your testimony, I thought you were going to testify at a different hearing because it really had little to do with this hearing, when 10 of the 15 pages had to do with fly ash. And then when they quizzed you, someone earlier, you didn't have expertise in all three, but you did have about the fly ash. So I was interested. I hope you come back when we talk about fly ash, so we can have a meaningful adult conversation with that.
I'd be delighted to.
But in the meantime, I am curious I'm trying to reconcile your testimony. On page 4, you say that in any deadline enforcement case, the agency has ample time on and on, and there's no reason the courts will impose unworkable deadlines. But yet then in your own brief, you said you think they should be forced to do it within 6 months. Can you explain that a little bit better? Why there's a contradiction in your testimony and in your legal brief?
Certainly, there isn't a contradiction. In our briefing, we take the position that EPA has had decades to come forward with revisions of the regulations that should address coal ash, and has failed to do that. It has proposed a rule in 2009. We think that the agency could expeditiously wrap up this rulemaking process that's created uncertainty for everyone.
Whether that there seems to be a bit of a moving target, because I am curious. I think some testimony, maybe Mr. Dutch, you mentioned it about some of the pollutants, but the legislation that we passed 4 times out of here last year would have resolved a lot of the issues that you're referring to about groundwater contamination, because under the legislation we passed, it called for new liners underneath all new impoundments that would take care of this, and called for strict requirements over dam safety and water monitoring, all those things. But yet your group opposed that. So I'm just curious about that, because you seem to be wanting it both ways when the legislation was addressing it. But I think the real sticking point, if I'm correct, is over primacy. You want the EPA to control the landfills versus the House's position, and with quite a few from the other side of the aisle are looking for a resolution by allowing the states. And the states themselves have said they're prepared to do that. So you worked against a resolution to the very problem you're addressing.
We want environmental protection in whatever form it comes in.
Well,
The House bill would not provide it.
We gave it with putting liners underneath it and dam impoundments so that we wouldn't have another Kingston, because it wasn't what they were containing was the problem. It was a failure of a dam to collapse that caused that.
Respectfully, we disagree, but that's a bill that's not before the committee today.
Thank you. So I was just curious, because you came and that's all your testimony has been about fly ash. So I'm just curious to see what you know about it, other than just you want it your way and not in a way that the committee, because we had an earlier discussion with Administrator Stanislaus, and he showed a very positive attitude about getting this thing resolved this year. And I'm very encouraged with the possibility we may very well, through bipartisan, get some kind of resolution, but you seem to be stuck outside the table. And I would suggest that perhaps instead of looking for perfect, if you're willing to compromise with us, we'll all come to some resolution and resolve this matter and remove the stigmas associated with the recyclable materials. By time, apparently I've got a couple of seconds left. You want to respond?
We would certainly be interested in any action by Congress that would resolve the long-standing water pollution problems and fly ash, air pollution problems, and dam safety issues. So far, that has not materialized.
Said that he's willing to work with us and try to get that resolved?
I'm sorry.
You're not aware that the administrator said he's willing to work with us?
If the administrator is willing to work with Congress, and Congress is willing to come to a solution that actually works to address coal ash, we would be the first people to endorse such a solution. So far, that solution has not materialized.
Thank you very much.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. McNerney, for 5 minutes.